There are inherent risks with goal setting. Did you know that? Well, if you didn't, I'm going to tell you why. Today is day 10 of 30 days of mental skills. I'm Larry McGuire, work psychologist at humanperformance.ie, and we started just over a week ago discussing those components, those aspects, those elements that are required, those psychological elements that are required in order for you and me and everybody else to live a purposeful, meaningful life, making a positive contribution to the lives of others, and maybe even achieving a bit of success in the process. We started off talking about motivation. We moved on after a few days into, we started with mindset. Then we moved on to motivation, and we're currently talking about goal setting. This is the final session. I'm going to discuss it. And in particular, I wanted to talk to you about those risks that are inherent with setting goals, right? You'll see from the detail below this video, whether you're on YouTube, you might even be on Spotify or Substack or wherever it is you happen to be watching this, you'll see the detail below. But I'm just going to walk you through these risks now. They were not only highlighted by Ordóñez et al. Researchers in 2009, other researchers have spoken of these risks as well. But their paper, Ordóñez, I've a citation in the text below, are perhaps the most well known for producing this comprehensive account of the risks associated with setting goals. And the first one they identify, well, the first one in our list, not necessarily the first that they identify in their paper, but too narrow a focus is particularly problematic. Overly specific goals can cause us to ignore essential aspects of life and of work and so on. Too blinkered, so to speak. We've almost developed a tunnel vision towards achieving this thing, whatever it is. Whether it's, let's say, for example, you're building a business and you ignore the needs of your family and your kids, well, you'll pay for that down the road, as many business people will attest to. Or maybe you're an athlete and you're too focused on building speed in your game, whatever happens to be, and you push too hard and you get injured as a result. There are many examples. But being too narrowly focused and not having an eye on other important elements of life can lead to detrimental consequences. It can also lead to increased risk taking, particularly so in the world of business. If you watch the financial markets, that'll be only too obvious. 2008, 2009 is a particular point in time that I remember vividly myself. I took many risks, and they weren't measured. They were in pursuit of a goal to be successful, and I paid the price for it. Risk taking is fine, but you got to do your homework and know the lie of the land and understand where the risks are and where the potential holes in the road are. So risk taking increases when goals are too narrowly focused. Can lead to unethical behavior. You pollute the environment. You are unethical with your customers and with your staff and so on. Sales teams can sell stuff that's not really of any value to a client or to a customer just to get the sale. The used car salesman is a prime example. So unethical behavior increases when we are too blinkered and too narrowly focused on our goals. Before we proceed, there was one example I wanted to actually jump into at the start. It's this one here. This is a headline from January from a local news agency, our local news agency, or RTE, state news agency, where they reported that Meta had set a new particular framework around performance at work, and they stated that the bottom 5% of the workforce would be let go. Now, where that becomes problematic is that people tend to focus on their own work and are less inclined to collaborate because they know if they're not up to speed, if they're not up to pace, they're more likely to be on the ship out of here. Now, the goal might be legitimate to management, but it doesn't take into account the needs of staff. So you can see how maybe this is somewhat unethical in terms of the decision making inside Meta. It's not uncommon, but it may be seen as unethical. It certainly can have the effect of crowding out innovative thinking and innovative work, creative work, because people are too focused on hitting their numbers at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter, because they know if they're not at their numbers, they're in the below the line, that 5% line. As a consequence, it can lead to boredom for some and burnout for others, and maybe even both. Having this high performance kind of at the expense of everything else type of approach to the workplace and motivating staff. It doesn't really motivate anybody. It motivates maybe the top 10% to work that little bit harder, perhaps. The jury's out on that. But those who are not motivated by necessarily numbers tend to suffer, and the organisation will or is at risk of letting go people who are quite good at their job. So not always a good idea having too narrowly focused goals when it comes to performance in the workplace. It can have the effect of creating ceilings around work and creative work and productive work, because people hit their targets and then they stop. That tends to happen. We've seen it over and over again, and studies have demonstrated this. So we'll put in a lot of effort to achieve a certain target, and then the effort stops. We go home early. We don't work too hard on a Friday. Well, you know what? There's merit in that. I won't point the finger at you if that's what you're doing. But this is a consequence of having a goal that's too narrowly focused. People stop once they hit that level. It can also reduce cooperation in the workforce. I mentioned that already. Reduces collaboration, cooperation among staff to get things done and find solutions to creative problems, creative solutions to novel problems, I should say. So there are many risks. I've mentioned most of them here. You can read about them in the article below the video. I've also linked to a separate article I've written on this, the dark side of goal setting. You can read more about it and get access to a number of different papers that I've cited in that article. So what's the message here? Well, the message is it's okay to have goals. In fact, I'd encourage you to set goals. Set goals that are smart. I spoke about that yesterday on day 9. Make sure they're values-based goals. So this is the first step. Here's the worksheet. I've given you a link to it yesterday and indeed the day before. So values establishment worksheet, do that first. And once you have that done, go on and do the SMART goal setting exercise. And you're in a good place to set goals that are aligned with your values and that you're more inclined to achieve. Don't omit those things that are important. Like if you're an athlete, your diet is important. If you're a business person, your family is important. If you're on the stage and you're an actor or you're a musician, you got to take care of yourself as well. There's a lot of kind of a culture of enjoying the after party once the show is over. So too much partying can have a negative impact on your goals to be a better musician, a better artist, and so on. Goals are good. Setting goals are great. They help you achieve what you want to achieve, but don't omit those other things that are equally important to you. Set your values first and go from there. Okay, that's been day 10. Short and sweet one today. Where are we at? Just under 10 minutes. I'm back tomorrow, day 11, and let me bring up the framework here. Okay, I can't find it now. Here it is. Here's the framework. And tomorrow we're going to get into people skills. It's at 3 o'clock around the circle here. And people skills relates to our concerns, the relationships that we form with others, and why that's so important. So I'll see you tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the playlist. If you're on Substack, also all the episodes that we've done, sessions we've done, are listed there. Keep your eye out for Essential Mental Skills that's launching soon. We'll talk more about that in good time. All right. Thanks for watching. See you next time.